What's poppin', players? Welcome back to a TwoPennyGames review, this time for Stellar Blade. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my co-host and good friend. Say hello to the people, Connor Elliott.
He calls me good friend, but I don't believe it.
We live together. How would you not be a good friend if we've known each other for well over a decade and we live together?
Maybe we're just you're just conveniently using me as a
Maybe
person to help pay the rent.
Maybe, you never know. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, this is your review for Stellar Blade. I am your lead reviewer for it. Connor, have you played any Stellar Blade over these last couple of weeks?
Jack shit. I haven't played a single bit. When I first saw this game, I didn't think it was for me. I think it was piggybacking too much off of Nier Automata, and I didn't really see any gameplay that struck me as being...
Well, remember they had... Because this one's been gestating for a while, so it was initially known as, like, Project Eve.
Yeah.
Is what it initially went. And it sold itself as being, like, a character action game at first. And then I guess that changed along the way, or the marketing changed or whatever. So now it's more of a FromSoft-inspired action game with character action inspirations, and of course, a world design and general open world design of of a Nier Automata and so forth. So, ladies and gentlemen, Stellar Blade is all right. It's an all right game. I think its strongest suit is by far its combat and just its overall gameplay systems and designs. It's fun to play, and you look as you're fighting enemies and getting perfect parries and perfect dodges, you feel great. And as you're executing combos, you're feeling awesome. But overall, Stellar Blade fails to have a unique vision or just a unified design in any aspect of the game. If this game was just a linear single-player character action adventure with FromSoft-styled combat, it would be so much better. But because it chooses to go down the route of an open-world design, of a mission structure design, and its choice to have a focus on just what is quite plainly the most bland and plain narrative I've played this year, and it's just simply uninteresting. All of these elements kind of come together and lead you going, I'm just not having a great time with the package as a whole. When I am fighting, it's great. And those systems all feed into each other really well when it turns into the dashing, the different guard abilities that you can use, and just the upgrade trees. The upgrade trees are really fun to explore and acquire new abilities and use them in combat and all that. I really, until the end of time, we'll sing the praises of the combat. But it's just the package as a whole is incredibly just not good. The world design is boring and bland, and it doesn't match the character design, which is colorful and wants to be kind of plucky and pop out at you, but the world of the game is so dour and drab and depressing that these characters don't get the opportunity to show us why they're interesting. And on top of that, the music is fun and catchy and is a fun little bop, has a fun little bop to it. But again, it doesn't work in the world that we are in. The enemy designs are ugly. They're just not good to look at. Not in they're gross sort of way, like a From Software has gross enemies. They just don't look good. They look boring and they look uninspired. And I guess that's the word I really am left with when I play Stellar Blade, is that this is uninspired. I think overall, this game needed... I don't know what happened in development, and I'm not going to pretend I can backseat develop these things, but it just feels like whoever was leading this project didn't have a complete vision for what they wanted and was making choices based off of other things that they liked and added all these things together, but they don't add together very well. Despite this combat team just popping the fuck off, because this combat really is really fun and really exciting to play through. And I'm walking away underwhelmed. I'm not going to say disappointed, but I am underwhelmed by Stellar Blade, and I wish it had a little bit more of the sauce in it.
From how you're talking about it, it seems like the direction given to the combat team was spot on, but everyone else just didn't really know what they were doing because this is the first game from this studio, correct?
Yeah, it's a new Korean studio. I'm blanking on the name right now, but yeah, I'll say as a first game, it's quality. It really is quality, but like maybe our scope is too ambitious. I just don't understand why they went an open world route with it, and why they chose to have their world be so drab and like this like realistic post-apocalyptic setting. It just doesn't work. I would have really much rathered like a very linear game that like would just kind of open up into combat arenas, and one that had way more color, way more character, way more just pop and something to remember when I'm looking at this game. Because as of right now, all I remember is just the colorful ass and titties that it's throwing at the screen all the time. And that's something else I want to talk about when talking about this game.
Shift Up Corporation.
Shift Up, yeah. Decent game. I'd be interested to see what they learned from this. I want to step away from the game itself for a second. This is not something I like to do very often when I review games, but the conversation around this game has been volcanic, I'll say, or vitriolic at the very least. And I don't understand why. There was a conversation or some type of talk back and forth about how this game was being censored, or how like they were afraid to make Eve sexy in this game. They're not afraid to make Eve sexy in this game. She wears a skin-tight suit the whole time. Connor, in fact, you walked into my room one night when I was playing, and you just went, Jesus, because just in the open world running around, it's just ass, just in your screen. And it's just kind of like, all right, cool, we're going that route. And I don't have a problem with going that route. If you want to make your game super horny, make it super horny, whatever. It's not typically my style of games that I enjoy, but like I'm not going to ding you for that. However, this game is horny, and the conversation around it about how, they're censoring it, this, that, and the third, it just feels like a bunch of incel losers on the internet. And I'm talking to you, incels, where they were like, oh no, this is too far. Sony's doing too much. We need to fight for the right for this game. We need to free Stellar Blade. I think a hashtag was trending at one point. And guys, what the fuck are y'all talking about? Because it is just skin-tight suits and titties everywhere. Not just with Eve, but every other female character in the game just has their titties out. And it's distracting and awkward, and it leads into my criticism of like the clash of the game. Why in this post-apocalyptic world are all the men dressed like they're ready for a battle and that they're scavengers, but all the women are dressed in skin-tight stripper outfits?
I think part of what it comes from, and I said this at the beginning, because when I found out about the narrative of this game, it's a direct copy of Nier Automata. And, that's fine if you can do good with it. But one of the other elements of Nier Automata that was talked about a lot, and the director himself talked about it a lot as well, was the sensuality of the main character, 2B. She's kind of become an icon in just of how her design looks. She's hot, but it doesn't shove it in your face. You actually kind of have to do, camera angles. You probably know what that means, to see the naughtier bits. But it's not like front and center in your face. It seems like this game wanted to do what that game does, and what people like, how people reacted to Lady Dimitrescu, and make a horny character, but they just didn't have any substance behind it.
I'm not kidding. Opening cutscene of this game, just a glamour shot of just like, look at the ass and look at the curves here. Like it's pretty ridiculous, and it's invasive. It gets in the way of the enjoyability of the game, I think. But like, it goes even further than that, because as I start unlocking more suits, they can just get hornier and hornier and hornier, to the point to where they have a very unique collectible item in this game, where it's soda cans, because the world has ended, but soda cans are still around. And so you're collecting different soda cans in the game, and then the character does a cute little pose every time she finds one, and it's a unique pose every time. This is fun. I like this. This is cool.
I saw him.
The reward, Connor, for collecting every can in the game is a outfit for Eve where she is in lingerie. And I'm talking the most revealing lingerie I have seen. Like, it'll make porn stars blush. Like, what are we fucking doing here? And so, yeah, just the conversation around this game kind of killed like some of the anticipation for it. Because even if I did end up liking the game more than I do, like y'all just turned it into oh, this is something I just want to jerk off to. And that is giving a discredit to what the game is actually trying to do, which is be a fun action game. And it is a fun action game. I'll say again, like the way that like electricity and lightning like strikes off of the blade when you counter an enemy, and the like when you do like special combo moves where like you're like zipping around and dashing or slashing at dudes really quickly. Like all of that's really cool. It feels good to play. There's some platforming elements in the game that I'm not super into. It's a little stiff in that element. But when you're fighting, it feels awesome. And I'll say something that is kind of letting the combat down, and what might be the worst part about this game is overall is its production quality. Like when a boss fight starts, they just kind of start. They don't have any. There's no intensity behind it. There's no build of music. There's no ominous like rising tension. It's a like you're walking down a street, a hard cut into a cutscene, big monster like explodes from some rubble, lands in front of you, and now you fight. Like it's just the like laziest way to introduce boss fights is how these boss fights are introduced. Now, the quality of the boss fights are pretty solid. I enjoy them quite a bit. But none of them are super memorable, and I think that kind of falls into the enemy design where it's just kind of just bland. It's like tentacle monsters or like robot monsters or like a weird mesh between the two. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of like, all right. But the mechanics of each enemy type are good and are interesting.
So are the enemies like advanced alien species that allow them to have that mix of technology and organic material?
Yeah, I guess. It just kind of depends. I mean, this story and just general world and background of the game is so, like, not thought through to the point to where it's just like, oh, these are just monster enemies that you just have to fight, basically. And so, you know, they come in, like, all kinds of shapes and sizes. But they all have, like, a general, like, just kind of gray/brown/black monster feel to them, and in different ways. And again, like mechanically, how they are each diverse is great, but just the look of them, they just don't look good. Like they look cheap. And the boss fights like start getting a little bit like crazier in the production value, and they start like upping it a little bit more, especially when you finally defeat these beasts. It's a cool cutscene of Eve, you know, cutting it up or whatever. But yeah, it's just honestly just one of the most uninspired games that I've played in a couple of years now. And it's disheartening to see it because I thought this one was going to be not like a 10 out of 10 or anything, but I thought it was going to be a bit of a banger. And like, I just feel like if the overall design of the game had more focus, if they were like, why am I climbing towers in this game? Like, why is that a thing that's happening? If this was instead more focused like a Devil May Cry, and you could still keep the FromSoft, you know, kind of action-y elements of it. I do enjoy their version of bonfires are like these like little camps that you sit next to, and there's like a soda machine where you can buy items, and then like there's different computer screens where you unlock new abilities, which are all cool, or like upgrade your weapons and stuff like that, which is also interesting. And then like it's just like a little lounge chair that you'll just like sit in and chill in or whatever, and your characters will like converse over the radio here and stuff. So like these are all makings of things that could be dope, but then the execution of it just falls super flat. And it just feels a lot like, well, they did it here, so let's do it here, or they did it there, so let's do it here. And that is really just the crux of just like, you're not doing anything that makes you unique, and the unique elements of your game, you're letting them down because they're not implemented well with the other choices you're making.
Disappointing for you, because I remember you were gassing this game up.
Dude, the early combat gameplay demos and stuff look cool, and I was right to be excited about that because the combat is good. It feels really good. I can't like take away from that. But it's just the rest of it is just so ugh. Like, I don't like looking at this game. I don't like being in its world. I don't particularly care for any individual element of this game other than the combat. Like, why are the characters so like colorful and they pop off the screen, but your world is so bland? And the juxtaposition of those things don't complement each other. You know how some games like juxtaposition actually complements? This is not the case here. Like, it just feels like the entire game is the Corel version or area of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, where it's just desert like all the fucking time and kind of bland to look at. Mixed with like occasionally you enter a really high sci-fi technology-based area that you'll like run through or whatever. There are elements where they do try to change the gameplay up. These are a mixed bag for me. Sometimes it's through platforming, which I think is pretty bad. Sometimes it's through like little dungeons that'll have gimmicks or puzzle elements and so forth. For example, one of the early dungeons that you will go through, they basically turn your sword off, so you only have your gun. Which is not like the best weapon to use against some enemies. So it's an entire dungeon of just like balancing ammo and shooting enemies and getting accustomed to how the gunplay feels. And then there's some decent puzzles in there that, you know, you'll like there's like a laser beam you have to get to a certain point of the room, so you have to use mirrors to deflect it and doing that. But if you point the laser at the wrong thing, you could like activate a trap and enemies will pop out and fight you and stuff like that. So like there's like some thought that has to go into it to avoid being punished. That's pretty cool. But it's too far and few between, and it pulls you away from what's really good about the game for so long that you end up like if you stop playing, if you end your play session in one of these dungeons, you dread going back to the game. And like literally, like I did that where like I was like, oh, I gotta get through this shooting maze thing and do these puzzles. Okay, whatever. And then I did it, and then I got back to the general gameplay loop, and then the game started working for me again. And I'll say like, just overall, just not the feeling of ugh, and just the mismatching of elemental designs in this game. Like, it just kind of turned me off to it, and it made me like crave something that was doing what this game does, but just so much better. And I ended up, even though I didn't like the game when it first came out, I ended up downloading and playing Elden Ring. And I've started playing a new campaign in Elden Ring, and I'm like 6 hours deeper into that. And I'm having a way better time with that than I ever had here in Stellar Blade. Even though the combat I probably like more in Stellar Blade, but like it's just the overall package of Elden Ring is just so artisanal and so masterfully crafted that like it's undeniable. Like the gap in quality FromSoft is from just the rest of the industry in terms of these action games and so forth. So yeah, man, Stellar Blade. If you are interested in it, like I do think it's worth playing and checking out. Unlike. I don't think Rise of the Ronin was super worth checking out, but this one I think could be. But overall, like it's just not the best bang for your buck. At the end of the day, like it's just okay. It's all right. So,
I think the last thing I could say about this is you were criticizing like the incels who were upset about the censorship.
Yeah, y'all are fucking losers.
Well, the good thing I could say about towards those people is look forward to the SFM porn. At least you'll have that to look forward to. You got something if you were disappointed with what they did. So,
Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be your review for Stellar Blade. Let me know down in the comments how you felt about the game. Are you higher on it? Are you lower on it? Let me know. Does any of these points make sense, or are you feeling a different way? Drop down comments in the comment section down below. But until next time, have a great time. And Connor, say goodbye to the people.
Bye, people. Bye.